Hurry up and wait. Do you think the Lady Hawks would like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I second that.
Welcome to this, I called to order this February 22nd, 2022 administrative meeting of Bernalillo County Commissioners to order. We will have a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led today by our amazing Lady Hawks. And if you just pause for a moment for silence and then start together, it would be great. Thank you, Lady Hawks. Whenever you're ready, Lady Hawks, we can hear you.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lady Hawks. And we'll get back to you in just a moment. Madam County Manager, are there any changes or additions to the agenda this evening?
Madam Chair and Commissioners, there are no changes or additions. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have proclamations, and the first one is sponsored by Vice Chair Benson, Albuquerque Ambulance 50th Anniversary Proclamation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Whereas emergency medical services is a vital public health service to the residents and visitors of Bernalillo County, New Mexico, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And whereas access to high quality emergency medical care dramatically improves survival and recovery outcomes for those who experience sudden illness or injury in our community. And whereas Albuquerque Ambulance Service was first established 50 years ago in February 1972. And whereas Albuquerque Ambulance Service has grown to become a comprehensive provider of 911 emergency medical response, critical care transport, mobile integrated health, dispatch and telecommunications, EMS education, and ambulance fleet maintenance and logistics. And whereas over the past 50 years, Albuquerque Ambulance Service has collaboratively partnered with Bernalillo County Fire Department, the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office, the Bernalillo County Emergency Communication Center, and other county resources in the delivery of emergency medical response and transport. And whereas Albuquerque Ambulance Service has dedicated countless hours of training and education to their EMTs and paramedics to ensure that they provide outstanding quality emergency medical care. And whereas Albuquerque Ambulance Service personnel respond to an average of more than 119,000 calls for service and transport, an average of more than 85,000 sick and injured Bernalillo County residents and visitors annually. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Bernalillo County Board of Commissioners recognize Albuquerque Ambulance Services for 50 years of dedicated service to the residents and visitors of Bernalillo County, done this 22nd day of February 2022 in Bernalillo County, state of New Mexico. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Benson. Great proclamation.
Madam Chair, we do have Mr. Scott Casper on along with Julia Rubin.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Scott Casper. Please, thank you. I believe that, yes. Did you want to speak and add some words? Thank you for your service.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. Certainly appreciate the proclamation and the recognition, but more than that, we appreciate the partnership with County Manager Baca, with Chief Perez and members of his team at Bernalillo County Fire, and all the men and women that we work with every single day. We are truly proud to be a provider here in the county and to serve the residents and visitors as we do. Our folks are very, very proud of the job that they do. It's been several very challenging years, as you know, and hopefully we're all on an upswing from this and can use our 50th celebration to celebrate coming out of that challenge as well. And we look forward to many, many more years of serving the county as proudly as we have for the past 50. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Did you say Chief Campos was also, or was there another person?
I think Julia Rutan, but
I don't see.
that's it.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Casper. Important life-saving work you all do. So thank you. Thank you for your service. And happy 50th, even though the last few have been quite a hard one. Great, we have another proclamation this time. Very exciting. See all the powerful women on the screen, and I believe the sponsor for this next one is Commissioner O'Malley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you hear me okay? I think, yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. When my longtime friend, that's Aaron Grego Sr., brought this team to my attention, and we were just talking about it, and he went and texted me a photograph of the team holding a trophy, which I understand was a trophy actually from the men's team because they didn't have a trophy. And this was an extraordinary win. And so I thought, well, we're going to have to celebrate that. And so this is why I brought this proclamation forward. The head coach, Aaron Grego, is here with members of the team. And I'm going to begin by just reading the acknowledgement, and then, I'm sure that the head coach has a few words to say. So this is the acknowledgement. Bernalillo County Board of Commissioners does hereby acknowledge the 2022 Women's Metro Wrestling Champion, Volcano Vista Hawks, acknowledging on Saturday, January 29th, 2022 at West Mesa High School, the Albuquerque Public Schools Metro Wrestling Championships were held, and for the first time, girls were included in the tournament. And acknowledging at the end of the day, the Volcano Vista Hawks became the first women's team wrestling Metro Championships champions. And acknowledging girls wrestling was sanctioned by the state as a sport in 2019. The girls wrestling team was excited to finally be part of the Metro Championships and made the best of their opportunity. And acknowledging the Hawks soundly beat the rest of the field with a 57-point victory, 160 over 103 over the second place team. And acknowledging two Volcano Vista wrestlers won titles, Dana Herrera and Samantha Gomez. Acknowledging the rest of the team members are Ayla Alvilar, Abigail Armijo, Arroya Armijo, Juliana Candelaria, Kara Etsity, Gabriela Green, Olivia Grobecker, Danny Ray Lopez, Lauren Manuelito, Elena Moya, Chelsea Rivera, Jelena Self, Caroline Tafoya, Tanessa Torres, Ariel Vigil, and acknowledging the coaching staff, head coach Aaron Grego, assistant coaches Rico Montoya, Robert Glass, Eric Crum, Benito Ortiz, and Joshua Grego. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Bernalillo County Board of Commissioners congratulates the Volcano Vista Girls Wrestling Team and their great efforts in becoming the first Women's Albuquerque Public Schools Metro Wrestling Championship winners, done the 22nd of this day, February 22, 2022, in Bernalillo County, state of New Mexico. Presented this day, the following Board of Commissioners: Adrian Barboa, Chair, Paul Bussin, Vice Chair, myself, Stephen Mike Quesada, member, and Charlene Piscotti, member. So welcome and congratulations. Woohoo!
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So,
Appreciate your recognition.
Absolutely. Want to say a few words there, head coach? Grego?
Yes, ma'am. So we are so very proud and so very honored to be recognized by Bernalillo County and the commissioners here. These girls have worked so hard. Not only this year, but we've had representatives on this team that have been in this since the 2019 season that have really taken ownership of this program and really grown the sport. So I would like to congratulate Tanessa Torres and Juliana Candelaria for their 3-year membership in this program. And a big part of this team success falls on their shoulders as they brought in this multitude of girls, and this recognition is so important to us. These girls have worked so hard to overcome some adversity and get some women empowerment. And it's great for them to be acknowledged for all their hard work.
Thank you so much.
guys.
And thank you very much. Again, congratulations, Lady Hawks. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
How exciting. I see Commissioner Benson's hand up, but I want to go first. And because I'm chair, I get to. I just want to say, wow, exciting. I saw this on the news. I saw you all on the news. I was so proud to see it. So exciting, so powerful. Y'all are making history for New Mexico, for New Mexico's women. Thank you so much for all. I know it took a lot of work and a lot of dedication. And yeah, so proud, excited to see all of you doing such great things for everyone beyond just your school. So thank you so much again, appreciations and congratulations. Go strong women.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I'll let Commissioner Vice Chair Benson go.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ladies, Lady Hawks, congratulations. We're so proud of you. You all are doing what my wife and I tell our daughter every day. She's 13, following in your tracks, and we tell her, don't let anything stop you. And you all are trailblazers, and you're champions, and you're fighters, both literally and figuratively. And I couldn't be more proud of you. And one thing, we need a girls wrestling trophy now. You guys won one, and so now we got to keep it going. And also, keep trailblazing, ladies. Use this as a springboard and just keep breaking new ground and keep leading and keep pushing yourselves past what you or others thought you could do. Very proud of you. Coach Griego, congratulations to you too, sir. Very proud of you. You guys are wonderful.
We appreciate the kind words of wisdom. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Commissioner Quesada.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also, I'm a father of 3 daughters, and I'm a big time component of women power. But I think where I come from is I also wrestled in high school, and I know how tough and how hard and how dedicated you have to be to just be a wrestler, let alone a Lady Hawk. And that just shows us that how strong and powerful women have always been. This isn't a new revelation. Women have always been this strong and this powerful, and you guys are great leaders and great examples of how other girls can discover that for themselves. You're a big group. I didn't expect that many. I thought you were a baseball team for a second. That's how many of them, how many girls are there. But you're wrestlers, and you're strong, and you're fighters, and all of that matters in life. And so I know that is a room full of successful women. And I want to congratulate you and your coach, because hey, you got to thank your coach, right? Because he's the guy that's with you every day, pushing you to be better and stronger. And we all need that. So Coach Griego, congratulations, and thank you all. And hopefully we'll see you here as our new leaders in 10 years. All right. Thanks, guys. Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate the kind words. Thank you so much.
And Commissioner Piscotti.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I just want to, again, echo everything that what everybody else has said. And Coach, congratulations. And thank you so much for motivating these young women. And to the Lady Hawks, congratulations. I'm like so impressed and so proud of you, because yeah, I could imagine how much discipline it takes and how much, just persistence it takes to excel in this sport. So you are an inspiration to me, and thank you. Thank you for all the work you put into this, making us proud. And I am so looking forward to seeing where you all go from here. I'm going to be watching you closely and just see as you grow into your greatness. So congratulations again.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lady Hawks. I appreciate your commitment and service. And I'm just thankful because this next proclamation, I'm so thankful that we got to see this spirit of young, strong leaders working every day with commitment and such fortitude and for their communities. Because this next proclamation is one that I'm bringing to acknowledge and really celebrate. And that's why I'm thankful to go right after such a strong team of young women, because Reina Luz Juarez, as folks heard at the last meeting, passed away. And I think coming right after those young women is just, it's meant to be, because she was this huge support for our young people, specifically for all our communities. But man, was she a joy and sunshine to every young person's life that got to be around her. So I have a few folks that are going to actually present this acknowledgement to me, because I asked them to present it with me, because Reina Luz was just exactly what her name means, which Reina is queen and Luz is light. And she was a huge beacon of light for everybody in our neighborhoods here in Southeast Albuquerque. And so I thought the greatness couldn't be explained by only one voice. So I've asked them to join in me with me, folks that have worked with her for over the years. She's worked close with county for decades, if not longer. But I'll start before I start crying. Again, celebrating the life, acknowledgement. The Bernalillo County Board of Commissioners does hereby acknowledge Reina Luz Juarez, acknowledging that the Bernalillo County Commission wishes to recognize Reina Luz Juarez, her joy for life, her boundless love of family and friends, her generosity of spirit, her grit and determination, and acknowledging that Bernalillo County benefited greatly from the tireless efforts of Reina Luz in improving the health, safety, beauty, and accessibility of her community, and acknowledging that Reina Luz's love, leadership, and commitment have been foundational to helping the International District and South San Pedro neighborhood serve as a proud home to people who hail from every corner of the map, speak a multitude of languages, and represent a wide array of backgrounds and beliefs.
Acknowledging that as a pioneer of the community schools movement, Reina Luz laid the foundation for organizing the community's multiple perspectives and goals towards a compelling and shared objective of increasing positive opportunities and outcomes for all students and their families. And
acknowledging that as a mentor and friend, Reina Luz taught many ABC Community Schools coordinators to speak truth to power, to advocate for the community, to manage the politics, personal agendas, and personalities, to liberate funding, to think creatively through barriers, actively confront systemic and institutional racism, to lift and empower the voices of those who are marginalized and disenfranchised, and to be generous with smiles and food, and acknowledging that Reina Luz impacted the lives of children and families in her community in a positive way every day.
Acknowledging that Reina Luz's efforts helped lead the development of the International District Healthy Communities Coalition, IDHCC, a leading example of the community public health organizing work that has impacted many facets of the community well-being and of the International District and Greater Bernalillo County, and acknowledging that Reina Luz recognized the value of social determinants of health, that healthy eating and active living is challenging for people who live where it is unsafe to walk and where healthy foods are not accessible, promoted home gardening and walkable streets, championed housing as a human right, and
acknowledging that February 7th marks the untimely death of Reina Luz, longtime community leader and resident of Bernalillo County's International District. Now therefore be it resolved that the Bernalillo County Board of Commissioners asks all county residents to join us in proudly honoring and celebrating Reina Luz Juarez for her profound accomplishments and inspiring example of commitment to her community. Done this 22nd day of February 22nd in Bernalillo County, state of New Mexico. Presented on this day by the Board of Commissioners, Adrienne Barboa, Vice Chair Commissioner Benson, Debbie O'Malley, Commissioner Stephen Michael Quesada, and Commissioner Charlene Piscotti. Thank you so much. Thank you to the speakers. I want to give time. There's a few other people here, and of course, let commissioners say a few words. Commissioner O'Malley.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Very saddened to when I heard the news about Reina Luz, as so many people were. I first met her, I would say, in the late 80s. She had accompanied her aunt at the time. Her name was Teresa Juarez, and she was working with us, helping to organize a sawmill around the pollution issue. That's how we basically started over there at Sawmill, was fighting a polluter. And we organized around that initially. And she was part of this small group. I learned a great deal from her, and so did my daughters. She put together these different little programs for the kids. They can still remember what she taught them. What I got from her right away was she was pretty fierce for being small, and she was not timid. She knew what she was going to stand up for, what was right, and so I'm very grateful to her. I learned a great deal from her and her aunt. And of course, she went on to organize in the International District, and she's become, she became quite the leader. And what's really sad is that, we acknowledge people and they never get to hear how we feel about them. Sometimes they, because she passed on, she's young, and that's of course very sad. But I'm glad to see that, she clearly was well respected. And so I want to just say that, and to, again, just, she was a dear, dear person, and she will be missed. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Malley. And I wanted to give room. I see Karen, Kathy, and then with Enrique, and others that I think Bridget Yanis might be in participants list. If you can let her in, Julianne.
She is on the participant side. I do see her here. I'll ask her to unmute.
Okay, thank you. And I believe Treasurer Burse also wanted to say a few words, please. Oh, there she is. But yes, Enrique and Karen.
I've had a lot of opportunities to speak about Reina in the last couple of weeks, so I'm going to pass it to Karen.
I knew Reina, she was my ESA. As Quesada and Adriana probably understand very much well what an ESA is, and many others. I just want to say a quote in memory of Reina, and then a quote that I've learned from another person. So in today's world, people experience two types of poverty. The poverty caused by lack of food, clothing, and shelter. And the other one is the poverty caused by the lack of love and compassion. Reina had all these things. She left them for her children. And we should be there, those of us that are close to her family, check in on them once in a while. Yeah, don't forget them. The walk to the school was beautiful. That happens every Friday. She would want people to go there to walk on Fridays, not just because of her, but because that's something that's been happening. When I was a teacher, that walking school bus existed also, but she bring it back. So let's just remember, you know, it's the children, the elders, it's everyone.
Thank you so much, sir.
Reina Luz, presente.
Presente. Thank you so much, Karen and Enrique. Yes, Treasurer Burst. You're on mute. Treasurer Burst, you're on mute. Oh, I think she might be calling in.
I do see her on, it's #6 or *6, Madam Treasurer, to unmute from your phone.
There you go. Or maybe not. Let's,
How's that? Is that better?
yes. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the community. Reina Waters was a community champion in the Southeast Heights and the International District, whether it was on the City of Albuquerque's District 6 coalition of 18 neighborhood associations or the South San Pedro Neighborhood Association, ABC Community Schools. Reina always spoke her truth. I thank her family for supporting her in all her community activities, paid or as a volunteer. I worked side by side with her for over 18 years, and you've heard some of the work that she did, and appreciate her steadfast work in our schools and our neighborhoods. We lost a champion, but her spirit will continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Treasurer. Yes, Ms. Deanna Cook.
Hi, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to celebrate Reina tonight. I am here to speak on behalf of the ABC Community School Partnership Executive Director, our staff, and the community school coordinators that worked with Reina on a daily basis. The first time that I met Reina in 2011, we were both brand new community school coordinators, and we were standing in a circle, and she threw a koosh ball at my face and laughed at me. And I feel like that was a great start to our partnership and our friendship, because for the next 11 years, I spent a lot of time catching things that she threw my way, including ideas and learning, and spent a lot of time laughing. We were early pioneers in the community schools movement, and she really connected me to ideas and to people that changed the course of my life and changed the course of many people's lives. Reina, as you all know, instinctively understood that many of the problems that we face in our society, from addiction and violence and disengagement and among students and workers and polarization of politics, is made worse by people being disconnected and people being lonely. And she spent really her professional and personal life, and the whole time that I knew her, building a more connected world, knowing that this is what holds the key to solving many of the problems that our communities and societies face. And so I will always be grateful to her for that, and for those connections that she taught me how to make, for the connections that she made for me, for her mentoring of me, and her dedication to our community. Thank you for this time.
Thank you, Ms. Cook. It's an honor to cry for some people. So yes, Mr. Jean Saavedra.
Thank you. I appreciate the time and the opportunity to speak tonight, to recognize and to remember Reina Luz. And I'm going to try not to cry myself. So in 2010, I met Reina Luz. She walked into my office She was brought to me actually by someone that we all know, Jose Munoz, I think most of us know. And he said, you need this lady more than she needs you. And I didn't understand that until the point that I actually realized that I did. Reina grabbed me by my tie and took me out and showed me what it was to lead a community school. I will forever be grateful to Reina for what she's done for me, my career, my life. I represent APS as an associate superintendent, but Reina was a friend and somebody who truly meant a lot to me and the work that I've done each and every day. So thank you for the opportunity to speak. And I'll miss Reina, truly miss her.
Thank you, Mr. Saavedra, for sharing those beautiful moments. The importance of Reina Luz. Miss Kimberly Fink.
Good evening. I'm gonna try to keep it together, and thank you, Commissioner Barboa, for honoring my friend Reina Luz. My name is Kim Fink, and I'm the principal at Whittier Elementary. I met Reina actually 4 years ago this week when I was brought down to Whittier Elementary because our school was in deep trouble and was being threatened with closure by the state of New Mexico. And Reina joined me in making sure that we turned around the school and built it as a model that is a place that people come to see what is possible for our students and what is possible for our community. I got to know her as a mother, a wife, a daughter, a community organizer, and a school coordinator. And anyone who knew her knows that that was seamless. There weren't weekends and evenings for Reina. She was always on the job. And I thank her family again and again for sharing her with us. I've had a lot of people ask me in the last 2 weeks how we honor our friend. And I would say that Reina would see this as a call to action for us to continue her work. Her latest work has been around affordable housing. She met in December with 40 families who are on the verge of eviction. We have a lot of families in our community who spend 80% or more of their disposable income on housing. And we have the cheapest housing in the city, in our neighborhood. And we have people on the verge of homelessness, families on the verge of homelessness. She was trying to find resources for family and combat the food insecurity that has been on the rise for us since the pandemic, and was trying to establish a food hub at our school. And of course, she was trying to establish secure funding for community school coordinators with the state by proving that her job contributed to higher graduation rates and better outcomes for students. And of course, she was all about beautiful spaces and gardening, urban agriculture, green spaces in the ID. And I think one of the biggest things we can do is really make sure that we develop that lot at the corner of Catherine and San Mateo. It was something that was a passion project for her that she wanted to see done. So I would encourage everyone to go forth today in the spirit of service that Reina would want us to go forth in, and ensure that our city is a beautiful place and a safe place to raise our families. Thank you for honoring my friend.
Thank you, Principal Fink. Appreciation so much. I want to end with just saying my little bit of a story. I've known Reina to be a powerful organizer, just as everyone else does, and just powerful community member, a loving mom. But part of when her daughter and my son were in school together in middle school, I was really struggling, and I knew her through the organizing work. And it's like as if she could see my hurt from across the whole parking lot and walked across and found me to make sure that I just had somebody to like pat my back while I was struggling as a single mom with my son in middle school. And so I just wanted to share that of all the things, right? She had this like magical way of knowing when people were hurting and just needed that friendly pat on the back or a bit of confidence and support. And last, I would just share one of the stories that I think is also an example I hear and truly take on that call to action. I do believe that that was what Reina would want for stop crying, stop talking about me, do something about it. But I think one of the most beautiful examples that people can understand so clearly is that when they talked about liberate funding, actually I think it was Danette that shared this story with me, right? That she would, there was people needing assistance for something, and she started making these lanyards and selling them. And then if people needed this, and they collected the funding and would give the funding out, but when somebody needed or requested some of the funding, she'd give them the materials they needed to make lanyards so that then they can raise more money. And so she was always in this way of thinking, how do we keep people engaged, that we're not just giving, but that we're engaging them and being part of their own self-determination. And so yes, let's carry Reina's Luz, her light forward, and we do as we do this work as policymakers. So thank you. Thanks for everybody for attending and for listening. And que viva Reina Luz. Thank you. Oh, I see Bridget Yanis. Yes, one more. Well, thank you, Bridget.
Hello. Thank you so much, Madam Chair, for having me here. And I was a little bit hesitant because of tears, and then I'm watching y'all with tears, and I'm like, okay. Yes, talk about her light, right? Her fire was so warm and bright, and it continues to be that way. So my name is Bridget Yanis, and I am the facilitator and project manager of the Bernalillo County Urban Ag Project, and on the board of the International District Healthy Communities Coalition. And that's a lot of where I started doing my work with her. I first met her though with her bright fire at a Kirtland Air Force Base Citizen Advisory Board meeting, where I watched her speak truth, like no one's business, stand up and say, who is this meeting for? This is contradictory information, just right in the face of people. And myself and Bernadette were like, I can speak for myself. I'm watching her thinking, oh my gosh, who is this person? I want to be able to speak like that. How can I do that? I want to know who this person is. And her fire, Commissioner Raboa, when you were sharing that about knowing this, knowing people's pain and things like that, her fire was like the fire of belonging. It was like, making people feel belonging and important in a space, and like they were needed and wanted and engaged. And I think about that. When I'm thinking about this call to action, and stepping forward, and how this acknowledgement is, is also like something she called me out on, because she could be that way. She's so, very truth telling. And she was, we were doing a land acknowledgement in the beginning of this Urban Ag Committee meeting. And, she was like, it's not, can we move forward? Is that, and do more than just this acknowledgement, Can we not actually take this land back? So I'm hearing you, Kim, with that call about that corner right there on Catherine and San Mateo, and really thinking about our lands, like these lands, occupied by, and cared for by Tiwa people, really thinking, how do we honor these lands? And she was right there. She was on the pulse. She wanted these lands for her community. How do I do that in the work that I do? How do I work collaboratively and honestly with the spirit of sharing and the spirit of sharing resources? I don't know, but it's like, one step at a time, and, just holding her in my heart, and that fire in my heart, it is something that's helping to get me through this time. And it's so good to hear other people share stories. Thank you so much for this space and for bringing us together this way.
Thank you, Bridget. Appreciate your words. This powerful day, and there was more folks that put comments in the chat. So thank you for honoring her with us today. We're gonna move on to public comment. Julianne, is there anyone signed up for public comment other than what we've heard today?
Madam Chair, there is no signups today, and we did receive one written comment by Geraldine Amato, which will be made part of the minutes of this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, then we'll move on to item number 6, approval of minutes. I move to approve the February 2nd, 2022 special administrative meeting minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Quesada. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner O'Malley,
Yes.
Commissioner Casada,
Aye.
Commissioner Piscotti,
Aye.
Vice Chair Benson,
Aye.
Madam Chair Barboa.
Aye.
So called.
Thank you. And approval of the minutes, item B. I move to approve the February 8th, 2022 administrative meeting minutes. Can I please have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Quesada. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner O'Malley,
Yes.
Commissioner Casada,
Aye.
Commissioner Piscotti,
Aye.
Vice Chair Benson,
Aye.
Madam Chair Barboa.
Aye.
So called.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We're moving on to item number 7, approval of the consent agenda. Madam Clerk, please provide resolution numbers for items A and B.
Yes, ma'am. 7A1 will be AR 2022-16. 7B1 will be AR 2022-17.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. And for the first, the consent, oh, whoops. Everything's taking a minute. So I move to authorize a motion to approve administrative resolution AR 2022-16, authorizing submittal of the fiscal year 23 DFA alcohol detoxification grant application to the State of New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration, Local Government Division, and 2, authorize the county manager to execute agreements, the MOU, and amend contracts and other related documents as requested. Can I have a second, please? Sorry, I can't see everybody. Oh, Commissioner O'Malley, to second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner O'Malley,
Yes.
Commissioner Casada,
Aye.
Commissioner Piscotti,
Aye.
Vice Chair Benson,
Aye.
Madam Chair Barboa.
Aye.
So called.
So called. And the second item on the consent agenda, oh.
Madam Chair, just for process, because these items are on consent, it's only required one blanket vote. So you can, for the record, you can apply the vote from 7A, or you can revote on all the items again.
Okay, so would you advise that I do, because we haven't done the A, B, C, D.
Right. Yeah, I would just make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, and thanks for dealing with me, folks. So I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Yeah, second.
Oh, that's what it was. Thank you. Okay. Madam Clerk, please call the roll to approve the whole consent agenda.
You bet. Commissioner O'Malley,
Yes.
Commissioner Casada,
Aye.
Commissioner Piscotti,
Aye.
Vice Chair Benson,
Aye.
Madam Chair Barboa.
Aye.
So called.
Thank you. Passed unanimously. Great. We'll move on to item number 8, adoption of ordinance amendment to county code. Madam Clerk, please provide an ordinance number.
8A2 Ordinance 2022-3.
Great. And I believe this first is Commissioner Quesada.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I think, I think we need to conduct a public hearing first, and then after that, I'm just gonna ask for an approval. But I guess before that, real quick, I just want to throw in some more information on why I'm doing this. Just 2 weeks ago, we just got the video. Somebody was riding their ATV up in one of our parks up here on the west side that we have fought for almost 20 years to get that park put in. And they took an ATV and ripped all the grass out of the park. But the good news is we got video. The bad news is nobody has ordinances really to prosecute these cases. So along with this, I have a commitment from Councilor Pena to also do this in the city. And then with the help of Mr. Martinez, we're going to approach the state to really look at, what the rules are and how we can, deal with this growing. It's a growing problem. And if we don't nip it in the bud now, it's just going to continue to get worse and worse. And we're going to be spending hundreds of millions of dollars to try to keep people off our parks with these vehicles. You know what I mean? So it's just out of control. As I said, I've done really good with the acequias and the ditches, and we continue to keep gating those. But that's going to be a forever project for me and whoever takes over my district, and probably Commissioner O'Malley's district. She deals with the same things with the acequias in the North Valley, and I'm pretty sure Commissioner Benson gets it way over there on the other side as well. So yeah, so I think, we need to start really looking at not only what we're going to do today, but what the city's going to do and what the state's going to do. So with that being said, I guess we'll go on to public hearing, and then I will also move for approval. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Commissioner O'Malley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I was wondering if this, and I haven't looked at the ordinance, and I'm glad to see that you're moving it forward, Commissioner Quesada. What about the off-road vehicles on public streets? I mean, we had a horrible issue. I mean, there's a horrible accident where that young boy was killed. And I was wondering if this ordinance, do we have any? I mean, what are the rules associated with that? Do you know?
I do wonder. I think there's, go ahead, Commissioner Quesada.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner O'Malley, this is what it's kind of reading. Mr. Martinez could probably back me up on this. We don't want them on any of the roads. We don't want them, they're not vehicles to be using they're not transportation vehicles. Later on down the line, I think at the state level, we really want to work on not only just, prohibiting them off of, public roads, paved roads and whatnot. We also need to start looking at, registration, being able to ID them. It's like a free for all, pretty soon people are going to start using them to steal from people or rip people off, right? Because you can't identify these vehicles, and that you can move fast in them. They're quick. They're very fast vehicles. They're not like a bike or whatever, So we are looking at that. I think it does state that, but Mr. Martinez, if you want to, give her the proper legal analysis of that, I'd appreciate it.
I can. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Commissioner. And we also have Mr. Grubasek here, who drafted this on our behalf. And that's exactly what this does. This does the very simple and I think really the big fact of making them illegal on the roadways. There was a provision in our county ordinance that would allow them to be legal for certain purposes with certain things put on them, like, the lights and all that. In certain areas, this repeals that. They would no longer be legal on the highways. The only way they could be on the highway would be to come to a complete stop and then safely cross at a 90-degree angle. That's it. So it's a pretty drastic step with regard to limiting off-road vehicles on the highways. Commissioner's right. There's a lot of other discussions about off-road vehicles off-road and what they do to off-road vehicles being used illegally. And we'll just continue to work on that. And I don't know if Mr. Grubasek wanted to answer any other questions, but we're both here if you have any other questions. It'll repeal the current ordinance put in place a new ordinance, just allows it to stop, safe crossing at a 90-degree angle, and that's it. Get from point A to point B, like some people use them as farm implements or something like that.
And Madam Chair, it would be remiss for me not to thank Mr. Grubasek for his work on this. I know that it took a lot. He had to dive deep because there's just so many different types of people have their own, rules and regs and I think he really did a thorough job to get us to the place to where tonight we're doing something really good. So Mr. Grubasek, thank you so much for your work, sir. I appreciate you.
Go ahead, Mr. Grubasek. I saw you and I think you were muted when you were saying something. Oh, we can't hear you. No. Sorry. Okay. Well, thank you. Text or chat if you want us to come back to you or something. Thank you. Great.
Madam Chair, sorry, for the record, we did not have anybody sign up for public hearing for this item, and we did not receive any comments during the 30-day requisite publication.
Hey. Go ahead, Commissioner Quesada.
Oh, I just unmuted because we have a motion and a second. I'm just waiting to vote. Thank you.
Thank you. I was waiting because my thing's breaking up. I did want to ask real quick so the public hearing is the 30 days that we just went through, so that when it says we have conducted a public hearing. Okay, great. And lastly, I agree that, did you all learn that it's the state that needs to make the consideration about them registering their those vehicles? Yeah, it's the state. Okay.
We'll continue to work on that. We did have early discussions, Madam Chair and Commissioner, with Legislative Council Service, understanding it was a 30-day session, pretty limited, and we all know how this session went. So they're aware of it. There's been a lot of legislation with off-road vehicles, and they're now under Game and Fish. That's where the regulations live. But we'll work with them. I think Commissioner Quesada has a lot of good ideas, and I think now's the time to do that. And we will probably be going to statewide type of discussion about them.
Okay, great. Thank you, Commissioner Quesada. As the motion on the floor with second by Commissioner Benson. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner O'Malley.
Andale, no, just kidding. Yes.
Commissioner Quesada.
Aye.
Commissioner Piscotti.
Aye.
Vice Chair Benson.
Aye.
Madam Chair Barboa.
Aye.
So
Thank you. Moving on to item number 9. Madam Clerk, please provide 3 resolution numbers.
yes, ma'am. 8A6 is FR 2022-18. 7 is FR 2022-19. 8 is FR 2022-20.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And I believe we have 9A, Fleet and Facilities Management. We have Elias Archuleta and staff to present. County Manager Baca.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair and Commissioners. I just wanted to kind of kick it off and just wanted to, first of all, let you all know, I apologize for the last time that this was heard on the 25th of January. It was on consent and we knew better than that. I'm going to take ownership that I need to own this. I should have taken it off. I had meant to. This is a big decision for you all and we respect that. So I also want to thank you all for the opportunity to be able to, that you deferred it and the opportunity to come back and present it to you. So what staff has done is we basically kind of dissected all the item, all our asks. So it's very clear and transparent because that's, what we always aim to do is to be transparent to you all. And so we respect that and we honor that. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and let Elias and Jared present the agenda item to you. And again, do not hesitate, if you have any questions. I know there'll be a few along the way, but we've got all the staff here and available to you to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, County Manager Baca. And Elias Archuleta, please.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the commission. As County Manager said, thank you for allowing us to bring this item back to you. Just to jump off on the item, following the deferral a few meetings ago, our staff provided the board with a summary of the items that we propose in the change order. We subsequently received a number of questions related to the proposed additional work. And so we spent a couple of weeks compiling that information that was requested, and we followed up by providing that information in a follow-up email, which clarified the scope and the costs, as well as the information related to the work that was included in each of these items and the justification and need that staff had that led staff to request these items. We also modified our agenda item to separate each of these requested change order items in order to provide the board the opportunity to act on each item individually. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and, at your pleasure, I'm going to present the item. And then, as Madam County Manager mentioned, Jared DeVette, our Facilities Director, as well as Sheree McKenzie, our Facilities Construction Manager, we're here to stand for questions. So with change order 9, or change order 9 to the Alvarado Square construction project, includes 4 additional items. We did remove the 5th item, which was item number 1 on our previous request, which was painting the seal on the roof, which is the slanted face of the building. Following the last meeting, we heard you guys loud and clear that even though this may be a good branding opportunity for the county and for our building, this just isn't the right time to do it. There's other things we need to do in support of our facilities maintenance and building program, and so we went ahead and removed that item, and we'll hold that for consideration at a later date or at the discretion of the board. So with that, motion number 1 in our change order is the additional security and technology item. This amounts to $36,839.31. And this provides additional cameras, panic buttons to augment our existing security system, which helps us fill in some dark spots that we found after our vandalism incident, as well as provide some supplemental and redundant coverage to our cameras and sensors in the building. This item was requested by our security staff, as well as our facilities maintenance staff. Item number 2 is the window and storefront replacement. This item totals $2,607,693.66. And this includes the replacement of the windows throughout the building, as well as the storefront on the second and first floors. With this item, we'll be replacing the windows that were originally installed in 1979, which are nearing the end of their design and useful life. Based on the location in the building, when we first began this project, we had estimated we had anywhere from 5 to 10 years of life left on these windows. Since the completion of construction, that design life has been reduced down to between 2 and 7 years. So we would like to take care of this replacement while the building is still under warranty, as much of this work requires us to go in, move around a lot of the workstations and break into the window sills to cool them out. All this work would be done from inside the building in order to not require scaffolding, which would significantly increase the cost and also the length of time to complete the windows. Along with this, if this item is approved, the county has applied for a grant to provide ballistic sheeting on these windows, which would help make these not so much bulletproof, but they would be bullet resistant and would prevent the windows from shattering and dispensing glass within the building. So if this is, and also if this is approved, we would be phasing this work so to minimize the impact to the working staff within the building. If this item is approved, we expect to see about a 7% annual reduction in our heating and ventilation costs, which based on our current billings could amount to up to about $20,000 per year for the building heating and cooling. Motion number 7 would be the build out of the 7th floor shell space, and this is at a cost of $1,216,543.05. And this item was requested by staff to address the behavioral health initiative being created and combined with the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council under one program. And so currently, while we do have space that was built into the building, that space is in the completed workstations, it's spread throughout the building. So we couldn't find the necessary space to house both the behavioral health initiative and the CJCC together, but we did have that if we built out the shell. So this work includes complete build out of the shell space as we provided in the supplemental information to you all. We showed the pictures of what the shell entails right now, which is literally a shell. It's the columns exposed in very bare bone vents, which don't extend through the whole space. So this would be the complete build out of the walls, flooring, roof, as well as outfitting each of the workstations with everything they need to work. The build out of this area is approximately 4,320 square feet. And item number 4 is the expansion of our on-site health clinic. And this was also requested by county staff as we've seen this being used by our staff pretty well since we opened up on July 1st. We've served approximately 343 patients, which equate to about 760 total visits. So as we may know, you often don't see complete your need with the doctor in a single visit. So this is why it equates to more than just a single visit. But that performance puts us on pace with the projection that we had for about 1,340 visits that would occur in the first year. What we'd like to emphasize in this is on July 1st of this year, we'll be opening that clinic up to family dependents as well as just employees. Up to now, only employees were able to get the health services through the clinic. So with that expansion, we expect to see our annual usage jump to about 3,000 patients and visits in that next year. With that loading, we would need to expand to add 3 additional exams rooms and the support spaces that are needed, and that's what's included in this request. And so that, like the previous item, would include building out some additional shell space that we have on the north end of the existing clinic. We would also like to point out that having this clinic on site has proved to be a good recruiting tool as well as a good retention tool for our staff, especially with our existing staff. This allows them to make an appointment, go with the doctor, and really only need to take maybe a half an hour to an hour of leave to see the doctor versus having to go and take an afternoon or 2 to 3 hours or a whole afternoon to accomplish that same visit. So with that, we've gotten very positive feedback from our employees with that. They've also been able to, with COVID in here, they've been able to get their testing as necessary when it came up. And so we're really seeing that this is a true benefit to our employees, and also improves the production of our employees too, as they're able to return to work quicker. One of the other issues that are the other benefits that our human resource department has let our staff know is there's continued growth that can be included with this clinic as we could be able to expand that to include pre-employment screenings with the drug screenings as well as the physicals. And there is the potential down the line, if we choose to bring in some of the occupational health services that we currently contract through Concentra and other vendors. So with that, we would encourage the board to approve this item. So with those 4 items, we had 4 additional motions that encompass our ability to, we'll be asking the board, based on their approval of these items, to authorize the county manager to approve minor changes in these contracts, which may include cost increases, but we're asking that those be limited to 5% or $5,000, whichever is greater. Any cost increases that may come in due to material availability or simple just increases in cost due to unforeseen conditions, anything greater than those limits, we'd bring back to you as the board to approve and to let us know if you want us to move forward with that. We also have 3 financial resolutions that would appropriate the money for the build out of the shell space on the 7th floor, as well as the build out of the health clinic. And with that, we'll stand for questions.
You're on mute, Madam Chair.
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Archuleta. And yes, Commissioner Quesada, please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, Madam County Manager, don't apologize. I've been working with you over 5 years now. Sometimes things slip by. It's called human, right? And if anybody on this call doesn't think that they've never made a mistake or something's gotten by them. It might be a little delusional. You've done a great job for this county for all the 5 years I've worked with you. And yeah, this one did slip by you, but you don't have to apologize for it. You take responsibility and we move on. So thank you for that. And we will move on. I've gone through all of this. I've made calls on all of these. Now, the one thing that's not on here is the seal. I'm in a different city every year. Every city is always every weekend or every other weekend. I'm in a different city, and they're always improving what their city looks like. It's something that they always do. There is not a city who does not do that and does not make that a priority. I would have voted against it for one sole reason, and that is, and you know this, I do not want to hire anybody out of state to do the work that should be done by in-state people. And when you said that you're going to bring a company from out of state, I was going to say no to that because I don't agree with that. I still don't agree with that on many aspects of what we do here in the county, even with our health providers at MDC. I still disagree with that. I still think that we can find local people to do the work. I think that's the job of government, is to create jobs for the people in their community and to help businesses thrive within those communities. But if they're going to push that down the road, that's something we could push down the road. I don't have a problem with that. It's not a major thing. I did call some people who do signage and signing and asked about the price. They said, that's about the price, you know. They said for $200,000, you could get a little sign with a light and that this was way bigger than that. So I didn't think the price was outrageous after doing some research. I just didn't like the fact that it wasn't a New Mexico company or an Albuquerque company doing that job. So with that being said, I don't have a problem with security and technology. When you get into a new building, you'll always find blind spots and places where you need to add security, where you didn't think about it the first time. That's just moving into a new space. So I don't really have a whole lot against that. I think that that's something that has come up with us going into a new space. So the storefront windows, I listened to, Mr. Archuleta about, the years left on the windows. And again, that's something we could kick down the road and we can say, leave it for another commission and other commissioners to deal with that, 4 years, 5 years, whatever the life of that is. And if we do that, I guarantee you the Journal will write an article saying, why didn't they fix those windows when it was cheaper? Why didn't they fix those windows when they had opportunity to fix those windows when they had, they still had a deal with the construction people? Why didn't they do those things, right? And so I don't ever listen to the Journal about advice for the community. I live in a community where we have historically, and this is mostly through the city side, they just do half the job. They put a road and say, well, we'll just do that for now, and then we will fix that later. Well, I'm waiting, we're waiting 300 years for some of the stuff to be fixed later. I think we need to stop doing business like that, and we need to start being proactive about when something needs to get done, to make the hard decision to do it. My only compromise would be, if we don't feel we have the money for that, what would it cost to do just the windows that we have the grant money to do the extra security, I guess we can't call it bulletproofing, but the bullet resisting type of stuff. So I've asked staff to look at what would be the compromise to just do what we can at that point, and then I guess kick the other windows down the road and let other commissioners do it when they start falling out of the building. I guess I don't know when we start really doing what's right or doing what's for the future of this building. But I don't know if that's a compromise that we can look at. when it comes to, you know, doing those windows. How many can we do and how many will that do? And then, yeah, maybe we kick the rest down the road and let somebody else deal with it later. Let another administration do it later. But I'm against putting bullet resistance on windows that we have to replace in the next 4 to 5 years. I'm against that. We have to, if we're going to do that, let's do at least that part right. And then on the health clinic, you know, I'm the guy who really pushed at APS to open up a health clinic for teachers. I don't know if you guys remember that. I was in the news and they were all mad at me because I was trying to provide something extra for teachers. And the reason why that didn't come to fruition was, again, when we got to the point where we were going to vote on it and they said, we're going to bring in this company from Tennessee to run it. After all the work I had done, when they told me they were going to bring a company from Tennessee to run it, I voted against my own thing because I wasn't going to provide jobs for people from Tennessee to do this, right? And then we had the hard problem with, if we build, you know, an employee health center for APS teachers, where do we put it, right? There's not a real fair place because you've got schools spread out throughout the whole city and county. Where would it make sense to do? So we couldn't figure that element out. So with that being said, we have that opportunity now with Bernalillo County. At APS, we found that we were going to save almost $10 million a year by creating this place where you can take, you know, where teachers can not only take themselves, but their children and their family members. That's what was key to me about actually having a real employee health clinic, right? And I'm happy to say that I believe that this is what's going to be the investment for us. And that I know we don't have a market analysis or a study, but I know this is going to save the county millions of dollars, right? And I think that if you have never had to take your child to the emergency room, you know, when you had to get to work and sit in an emergency room for 6 hours for your child to be seen, maybe you don't see the importance of having that type of facility where you work. I think it's huge. I think it's a game changer. I think it is a great recruiting tool, but not only that, it's just you know, I think it's just a human right to access to healthcare in a real way. You know, and I do believe if you build it, they will come, right? I believe employees will use it if we have the capability and the facility to do it. So I think that I'm good with that as well, because it was something I wanted to do for APS, and I feel very confident that doing it for Bernalillo County is also the right thing to do. So those are my comments. Those are some of the research that I've done prior to that, and you know, and if behavioral health you know, needs to, you know, have a space in our building, well, then they need a space in our building. Again, we don't want to put them in another building because hopefully we don't have another building. And I guess we'll let staff talk to that. But, you know, at this point, we're a one-stop shop. That's what we created. That's what we invested our money in doing. And again, let's not push work that needs to be done down the road. That doesn't make any sense, because from my experience, when things cost a lot of money, 10 years, they don't get cheaper. That hasn't been in my experience at any part of my life. Once things go up, they've gone up, and then we have to adjust on how we can afford it. It rarely, the only thing that I ever see fluctuate is gas. And you know why? Because we have no control over the price of gas. You know, and I think everybody knows that. So I'm just going to stand with staff, and I'm going to stand with county manager, and I'm going to make the hard decision. And if somebody beats me up for it, for doing what I think is the right thing, that's what I'm here to do. So, Madam Chair, thank you for giving me the moment to, you know, do the research, look at it, what's important, what's not important, and what I think the right thing to do is for taxpayers and the community. Because eventually it has to be done, and eventually you're going to have to pay for it. So with that being said, thank you, Madam Chair, and you know, I'm showing my support for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Quesada. Commissioner Piscotti.
Thank you. And so, yeah, I appreciate all the work that Elias and Jared and Cherie and of course County Manager Julie put into this to answer our questions and give us data and numbers. And I looked at those things, but I also looked from, just kind of an overall perspective. And so I'm against this spending. And, all of the feedback that I've gotten, all the emails and, high fives in person have been because I've listened to the voice of my community who feel that enough is enough. And that, especially now, this isn't a time to be spending close to probably $4.5 million on this. And so, it was interesting. The one email that I think we got in favor of this was in favor of the logo. And I looked at the email address. The person was associated with a construction company in Arizona. So that plug for the logo didn't really make much of an impact on me. Just, right before this meeting, we had the Board of Finance meeting. And I was listening to that one analyst talk about the inflation right now and just kind of the economic atmosphere right now. And he said that we can expect the inflation to go down, but we don't know what we don't know. And that really made an impact on me in all of this because, I think that, right now, prices are inflated, especially for construction materials. And so I don't want to support inflation and purchase things at an inflated price. I would rather put it off because I think this inflationary rate is not sustainable. And so it will go down. So that's just kind of a macroeconomic principle for me. Also, something that made a really big impact on me since the last meeting was a particular email that I read from a constituent who referred to hard-earned taxpayer dollars. And it really made me think about this in a whole different way, in that every single dollar that we spend as a county government on anything, I really truly believe those are hard-earned dollars. I think about every dollar that we've earned over these past 2 years of the pandemic and how we've slogged through our work and kept going. And, every one of those dollars is hard-earned. And so one of the exercises I did when I was looking at this was I thought about, what would the average worker think of paying some of these prices? And I did the logo, which was about $330,000. And I thought if an average worker was making something like $15 an hour, they'd have to work 11 years without paying for anything else to pay for that logo. And even though that logo might be a fair price for a logo, would I ask somebody to work for $15 an hour for 11 years to pay for it? It's unconscionable to me to look at when you look at it that way. And so, in terms of the other items, I'm happy that the logo is off the table. It's certainly not necessary. It certainly doesn't do anything out in the community to lift our people up. It's a pretty piece of artwork. But looking at some of the other things, the windows are the big ticket item at $2.6 million. And so I know in the data that it would save about $20,000 a year in energy costs, which is a 7% energy savings. But honestly, I think that's really low to only get a 7% payback for a $2.6 million investment. And at that rate, it would take 130 years to pay back that $2.6 million. And I don't think anybody here thinks that the next set of windows is going to have a shelf life of 130 years. So it didn't make sense to me to be spending that much money for such a low rate of return. And, you know, just thinking about the next 130 years, like what's gonna change? I hope that we find more efficient sources of energy, you know, that this becomes a moot point that we have to, you know, put in these windows, because, you know, also the swapping out those windows, I read about the process that would take to take the roller blinds down, do other things, which could cause more damage. And plus, I don't know what happens to the windows. Does that just cause more construction debris that goes in a landfill? I mean, it just seems like a bad deal to me. And since we are getting new windows from the ones that were shot out, I'm assuming that those will have some bulletproof, shatter resistant film on them. So the ones that were actually the target can be made better. I assume that's in the works. So, you know, in looking at especially the windows and thinking about other needs that the county has, which can really benefit people in the county, like MDC, like public safety, like the helicopter facility that is sorely needed, and other things that directly impact the community, I think that money could be better spent. Even though, you know, there's ways to argue for it, it's still $2.6 million. This total bill comes to what, about 4.5 million, I think. The health clinic, yeah, I was on the design team with Cherie and others, along with Commissioner O'Malley. And I remember we fought for the health clinic. So I don't have anything against the health clinic, but looking at the numbers, and we don't know how many people are going to be served when it opens up to dependents. I say, why make a commitment to it now? We don't have the numbers. So the numbers as they are, I think I know that they were reconfigured, because at first it was presented as 300 patients, but then it was like 700 and something patient visits. So it comes out to about what, 28 clients a week, which is still, I think, you know, still underusing the clinic. I don't think it's past its max capacity. So yeah, I don't feel a sense of urgency about building out the clinic at this point, because we don't have data on the dependents. And finally, I guess the BHI space, the Behavioral Health Initiative space on the 7th floor, I'm really unclear on how many people would be there and who would be there. I think in the first document, it said 11 people and then 16, and somewhere it said 35. And so my sense is that the reorganization is not complete yet. And there's no director yet of that department. So to me, it feels premature to be building something out when there's so much that's still up in the air. So I just wanted to express those concerns and reasons why I can't support a lot of these items. As far as the security goes, again, that one I'm still on the fence about, because I believe in, you know, having good security. And like Commissioner Casada said, as you're in a building, you kind of get a sense for what the needs are. So also it's one of the lowest ticket items. So I'm still thinking about that one, but the other ones, I cannot justify it, because there just doesn't seem to be a compelling reason for that spending at this time, for spending those very, very hard-earned taxpayer dollars. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Piscotti. And yes, Commissioner O'Malley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I do want to thank the team for our staff for really, you know, explaining all the different items that we're going to be voting on. And I have to agree with, I know Commissioner Casada pointed that out, there was no nefarious plot or anything like that. It was just one of those things that happens, and now we're looking at it. So now it's all broken up and we're looking at it. I do want to say that I do support the items. I think this is for the safety and welfare of the employees and also for the public. This isn't a residence. This is a public building. And as such, it's going to get a lot of wear and tear. We're going to have thousands of people go through it. Hundreds of people go to work every day. So we're talking about people who, spend a good deal of time in this building. And for example, the health clinic, I think it's a great idea. So we can provide also for families. Health and welfare, those are very, very important. Those are very costly items to employees too. It takes time away from work. And it'd be great if, they can just go somewhere and see somebody and if a family member can also, if anybody's waited at emergency that was pointed out, you can see the difference. The windows, okay, I think it was well explained. We're very fortunate that nobody really got hurt when those windows were blasted out. And it could happen again. Again, it's about the welfare of the people in this building, not just the employees, but the public. I mean, when that happened with the shoot out of the windows, that was in the middle of the night. Nobody was really there other than security. What if that happened during the day? We needed to upgrade these windows at some point. Might as well get it done. I don't think there's anything here that is extravagant or anything else. Again, it's a public building, and we have to make sure that it's well maintained. We got someone to design this building. It's high quality. We want to continue to make sure that it's a high quality building. It makes sense just in the long term to that we have that. It's a source of pride too for a lot of people. I don't think we want to make sure we say that as well. This is more than just this building, but when I was on the commission and made the decision to acquire this property, and I was supportive of it. It's almost like a redevelopment project over there. I mean, there's an area there that was just nothing was going on. Now there's activity. This is all good things. This is good things for downtown Albuquerque. And again, beautiful building. We need to keep it up. It's kind of like, getting a nice car and saying you don't want air conditioning or something like that. I mean, really, we just need to, I think, do these things, and I'm supportive of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Malley. Commissioner Benson, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank Mr. Archuleta and County Manager for actually breaking these items down into individual items. That was one of my issues with the last meeting, was that they were all grouped in one, and I think all this is nuanced. I think it's more complicated than just saying nope, I oppose everything, or yes, let's pay it all. And each item, I think, have merits of their own. I disagree with some of them. The security cameras, I think that's a no-brainer. Our city and our county is so dangerous. One of my stores was robbed yesterday. I put in multiple cameras. The more evidence I can give to the sheriff and police departments, the better. So I think that's actually a good use of our taxpayer dollars, helping catch bad guys, hopefully. The windows, Commissioner Piscotti, the analyst you were referring to was actually referring to me, pushing him on the returns that they were able to get. And I was cautioning on inflation, as you might recall. But yeah, it's extremely high. And some things do come back down with inflation. Wages typically don't, but unemployment numbers rise when costs go back down. So even though wages don't, unemployment rises. So, but with with more commodity products like windows and steel and glass, those prices typically do come back down. So the fact that that's not an imperative, I think we should push that off. I think that should be more of a normal maintenance issue where windows are replaced over time. We were told originally that the life was up to 10 more years, and now it's 7. I question that recalculation. Nevertheless, I think we should spread it out. The other one that I am in support of is the health clinic. I think it's a great idea for recruitment and retention. COVID has taught us that health is the great equalizer. And if our employees are sick and not able to come to work, then they can't serve our taxpayers. So, it's a good recruitment tool. So I am in favor of that. That, along with cameras, I think is a good use of our money. The others, I think we shouldn't approach right now. So I'm opposed to the others.
Thank you, Commissioner Benson. Where was that it? Sorry, it looks like maybe you want to say more.
No, Madam Chair, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate the conversation. I'm not sure, it didn't sound like there was any questions, but I don't know if any of our team, Mr. Archuleta, Ms. McKenzie, or others want to respond or comment.
Madam Chair, I can field some of the questions, or at least I'll try and field most of them. Like you said, lots of questions, I think mostly comments. Again, I'm Jared Vedder, the Fleet and Facilities Director for Bernalillo County. Really just overall, we want to avoid any increase in cost. We know that the majority of the cost of anything we're doing right now in construction is labor. Like Commissioner Benson mentioned, but we don't anticipate wage rates going down anytime soon. We don't want them to. We don't want people to be paid less. So we want to avoid having to basically put these things off until everything gets more and more expensive. We're seeing currently right now about a 10 to 15% increase year over year in construction costs. If we were to put these things off, we can anticipate $200,000 to $300,000 in increased cost per year. And just as an example, these windows were quoted in 2019, and in 2019 they did have 10 years left, 5 to 10 years left. And here we're 2022. So we've already ticked off the life of those windows several years. That quote came back at about just around under $2 million. So here we are, $400,000 more, just about 4 years later. So about $100,000 per year on the windows. We anticipate seeing a significant energy savings, lowering our carbon footprint, all the important things that we want to take care of by replacing those windows. We could, just to address the question of whether we could stretch that out over several years, we could phase that out. Right now, there's a couple of things we'd be taking advantage of. For one, the fact that we still don't have full staff in the building all the time due to COVID precautions. It would just be easier to do the job now without people sitting in their desks to make them move. So that's one thing that'd be a lot easier to do rather than shove them out of the way so we can pull their windows out. And in addition, we still want to take full advantage of that warranty where our vendor would be mobilized one time. Anytime you mobilize a construction team, there's some costs, there's some base costs. You could anticipate probably 20 to 35% costs every time they have to come out, which is significant if we were to phase it. And what we want to do is make sure that if something were encountered during this work that wasn't found during the initial remodel, that our vendor would cover that into their warranty, and so the cost wouldn't increase. We really just want to make sure that we're saving as much as we possibly can. We felt very confident about all of these items, and that's probably why we were a little overzealous in bringing them to the consent agenda last time. We just felt really good about it. We feel like we're taking every precaution to save as much money as possible. And we really want to provide, like Commissioner O'Malley said, a place that we can all be proud of. It's a building that we take a lot of pride in. Cherie did a fantastic job in the design and all of the remodel of the building. And I think we all just feel that pride. This is a good opportunity for us to have a nice place to work. And we really feel all 4 of these items address that concern that we want to make it nice, a good place for our employees to go. As far as the question about the number of people that will be occupying the new space that's built out by the Behavioral Health Department, that is 16. We hope to have 16 people in that area right now. However, the space could accommodate up to 35 in the future. We want to allow some room for growth. We would never have to say that we can't hire more people. We want to hire as many people as we can to work for Bernalillo County. We all feel it's a great place to work. And we would hate to have to say, we can't hire you because we don't have a seat for you. So we want to be able to say that we've got some room for growth, and we could put some more seats in the building down the road if we had to at a very minimal cost, because everything would be there except for the seats. So we like the idea of having that space built out specifically for behavioral health. Right now it's 16 people, and like I said, in the future 35. I think that was all the questions. I'll let you back to it if there are some more.
Thank you, Mr. Devitt. Commissioner Piscotti.
Thank you. As you were speaking, Mr. Devitt, just some things occurred to me. And I totally agree. Having the health clinic there is great. I did have a question. I don't know if it's something to be answered now, but just a question in my mind about, would we be would QuadMed be hiring more healthcare providers? Because, that's one of our big shortages now, healthcare providers. And even if we have more patients coming to the clinic and have more rooms, are we just going to have one healthcare provider running from room to room? I think our priority is to really staff up healthcare providers at MDC. I know the hospital is really looking at a shortage of nurses, things like that. So, that is a question in my mind. What's that environment going to look like? And will we have enough healthcare providers? So I just wanted to bring that up. Another thing that I wanted to bring up is, as I'm listening to this about the 7th floor behavioral health build out, is that, and Mr. Devitt, I think you said that, it's hard to tell because during the pandemic, we haven't been fully staffed in the building. And it just makes me wonder, are we ever going to return to that place where people are in the building, 40 hours a week? Or is working remotely, doing Zoom meetings, is that really what we're going to be doing from now on? And so to build out physical workspaces, is that really necessary? Because we've all been doing so well, and a lot of us really enjoy working from home or working off site. So it just again raises bigger questions in my mind about the necessity of things that maybe a few years ago would have been a no-brainer to build things out, build workspaces. But now I think it's something that's really on the table to really question what's really, really needed. One more thing. Thank you, Mr. Devitt, for bringing up the warranty, because I know the warranty goes out to May of 2024. So we have more than 2 years left on the warranty. So it seems like nothing has to be just signed tonight. And we've got 2 years to get in under the wire. So I just wanted to put that out there that to me, it seems like there might be some thoughts about, maybe phasing things in, maybe seeing how things go. So with a little more than 2 years ahead of us on the warranty, it doesn't seem like there's a super sense of urgency right now to sign off on all of these big projects. Thank you.
Just real quickly, I'll address Commissioner Piscotti. I'll address the healthcare or the health facility question. Yes, they would be bringing on a second health provider. They've determined that given their current trend, and this is not a county developed statistic, this is the company that's running the healthcare center, and they're a for-profit entity. They wouldn't be doing this if it didn't. They wouldn't be requesting this if it didn't make sense financially for them. But yes, they'd be bringing on a second provider because they feel that their current provider would be maxed out given their current trend at the beginning of 2023. They would also bring on an additional nurse.
Thank you, Mr. Devitt. Commissioner Quesada, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Mr. Devitt, a couple of things. So with the grant money for the bulletproofing, that's not for all the windows, correct?
That's correct. That would only be for the first and second floor. And the windows that were installed as part of the vandalism, those are already in place. No, those did not have ballistic coating on them. That was
They don't have them on them either?
No, it wasn't covered by the insurance carrier. It was like for like by the insurance carrier.
Okay, because I'd like us to explore the fact that, you know, I don't want to really put in bulletproofing or bullet resistance on windows that we're going to have to replace, despite the fact that maybe prices go down. I'm not a big believer that prices are going to go down. Nothing substantial enough to make a big, huge savings. You know, I've been trying to build something in my backyard, and it seems like if I wait a week, it went up in price. You know, for me anyway, it's going the wrong direction. No one be happier to see, you know, windows come down. A one little window was $1,500 in my back thing. $1,500. That could have paid for all the tile and the tiling and everything for one window. So it's crazy out there. And so I'm just wondering if there's something we can do to compromise on the windows, kick some of the windows down the road, I guess, but be able to replace the windows that we're going to be putting bulletproofing on. So I don't know if you can answer that as a question, or we need to decide that as a commission. Whatever the will of the commission of that may be, is what it is. You know, I've always been a game player, and if that's the will of the commission, that's the will of the commission. Or we replace all the windows. I don't know, whatever the will of the commission is. But I think if we don't have support to replace the windows, then maybe we can gain support to do the ones that we do have bulletproofing for. So if you could answer that question along with one more question. I've got an email saying, well, why don't you do the health center in one of the buildings that you have? So one of the purposes of us doing this was to sell off all those buildings. Can you give us an update on those buildings and where they're at, and why we're not moving departments into those buildings? Because we're selling them, we're getting rid of them. And I want to be able to be said publicly, so they know that is definitely what we're sticking to when it comes to our plan to being a one-stop shop at Bernalillo County.
I'll field the savings of moving to a one-stop shop. I mean, just in, you know, I also operate the fleet department. We're seeing tremendous savings in fuel. I mean, some departments are seeing as much as 35 to 40% fuel cost savings. And with fuel being so much more expensive right now than it was the same period last year, I mean, that's huge. Utilities costs, we're seeing tremendous savings in utilities costs. It's hard for us to make a comparison right now because of the time frame that we've been in Alvarado Square. But I mean, just in savings alone from closing the assessor's building and one Civic, I mean, that's almost $200,000 in utilities per year for those two buildings alone, which are no longer occupying. We hope to make an even comparison down the road where we can say we saved this much money by consolidating, which we just don't have the data on just yet. But I'm feeling like just from what we do have, it's going to be a significant savings there. The rest I will defer to Elias or county manager.
Thank you, Mr. Devitt. I don't know, County Manager Baca had her hand up first, and then I think Elias is trying to respond.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate that. I wanted to answer Commissioner Piscotty's question, and I think that that's a really fair question regarding the occupancy of this building. And so, as you know, thank goodness the COVID numbers are going down. And so right now we are on an A-B schedule. It's basically 50% occupancy, but we're going to be bringing that up as the numbers, God willing, continue to go down. So that is the intent of Commissioner, is we, I'd like to see, everyone coming to work and it being, hopefully a new day for everybody. So we do envision bringing folks back to work. And again, I do think that that's a very fair question. And the other thing I wanted to bring up is regarding the health clinic. So we have 288 firefighters that will be getting like their physicals here at our health clinic. And it's probably going to spread to other of our public safety and other staff as well. So I think that there's going to be really, really good use for our health clinic. And I'm just going to say on a personal note, I've used it, probably since I've been here 3 times, and it sure is convenient. It's probably taking me 30 minutes to go to an appointment as opposed to being gone for, 2.5, 3 hours. So it's, I can just say on a personal level, it's been really great, but I'll let Elias answer Commissioner Quesada's questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Go ahead. Thank you, County Manager. And yes, Mr. Archuleta.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Commissioner Quesada. So to date, we've actually completed and closed on the sale of the assessor's building, as well as our share of one civic. We also sold the old courthouse, but we are renting it back for $1 a year from the buyer, so we can still house right now, since we're constructing the Public Safety Training Academy. Currently, we're still holding the Sheriff's Academy is still there. So we do still have some costs associated with the running of that building. But as Jared had mentioned, we're seeing tremendous energy savings by just simply completely disposing and removing of one civic and the assessor's building. So once we complete the Public Safety Training Academy, we will move the Sheriff's Academy out of 401 and not 401. I'm sorry. The old courthouse. Can't remember the address right off the top of my head. But once we're completely out, turn it back over to the buyer, and we would have disposed of our interest in 3 buildings.
Okay, Madam Chair, may I follow up?
Yes, please, Commissioner Quesada.
So Elias, One Civic Plaza, that money was supposed to go to into our new building to mitigate some of the costs that we knew we were going to acquire after we moved into the building, and here we are. How much money did we get from One Civic Plaza to do that?
Commissioner Quesada, I do not have that on hand, but either Shirley or the Madam County Manager may have that.
Looks like the fabulous Shirley Reagan has her hand.
Good evening. We had a little over $5 million, and we received that in August. And I'm waving my hand in the air because the energy efficiency causes the lights to go off if you don't move enough. So I have to do this. But one of the things too is that the commissioners had voted on committing to, in terms of what you're saying, Commissioner Quesada, about putting the money back into this building. All of the sales proceeds were going to go to retire some of the debt from the GRT bond that was used to finance the majority of the improvements in this building, which I'm sitting at my desk right now, by the way. So.
Okay. Well, and that's what I remember us talking about that we were going to have money from the sale of One Civic to put into things that we may have needed in our new, our new building. And I think that wasn't part of our conversation this evening. And I thought we should talk about that, because that's what that money was for. Because I think if we would have put that money into, remodeling where we were at One Civic to make our floors better, I mean, it would have costed probably as much as what we paid on that new building. So I just wanted to make sure that, that people who are watching this meeting, that we're not trying to be bad stewards of money, that we're trying to do the best that we can with what we have. Some of this money we've already had invested. in other buildings. We're saving in many different ways. It's not just the saving of the one particular building, but it's the savings that we're getting from consolidating all the other buildings. So we can't forget that fact. We cannot forget that path that we're taking. And again, it's always good from a commissioner who's in District 2. It's always good to do it right in the first place, because if not, you'll be like me, having ribbon cuttings for sidewalks. We celebrate sidewalks in my district. There ain't no other district besides maybe Commissioner Piscotty's that would celebrate a sidewalk. They probably don't even want sidewalks in the East Mountain, and I don't blame them. But what I'm saying is, infrastructure and things that we should do right away, sometimes we don't, and we put off, and we leave it up to other elected officials to do it, and then they either don't do it, right, or we have to fight for it. So again, I just wanted to make sure that we all knew where all the funding sources were coming from, what we had already agreed on with moving to another building, and what other extra kind of dollars we had to do the things that we needed to do. And so I think that's like a wash compared to, what I'm looking at, the numbers pretty close. And yeah, it's tough. It's tough to make hard decisions sometimes, but thank you, Elias, for that information. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, Elias Archuleta.
Madam Chair, so what I'm hearing is that we still have some work to do on the windows, that we can come back, staff can go back and look at this, look at a phasing approach to how we can, like we said, we still have 2 to 7 years of life left. We have, a couple of years still left on the warranty. So, at the commission's pleasure, I would recommend we defer the item on the windows to allow staff to go back and look at a phased financial plan that we could bring that back to the commission for consideration.
Thank you, Elias. Commissioner Piscotti.
Thank you again. I just wanted to mention that Alvarado Square is over budget by about $20 million at this point. And so the $5 million from the sale of one Civic barely makes a dent in that. And, just a couple of thoughts in my head, just because we have the money doesn't mean we have to spend it. It's that saying, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And my priorities are just elsewhere. I think that like $5 million going to MDC, that would definitely be a higher priority than making our building more fancy. And it's a question of priorities, and also that we're way over what we thought we would spend on Alvarado Square. So thank you.
Thank you. I haven't chimed in much, but I guess I do want to say, right, that like when I read these items, I see that I want to ask a question. How many employees do we have at the county total, including our MDC officers, our solid waste, our public works, how many do we know what the?
Madam Chair, we're probably talking about 2,600 employees.
So that's a large staff, right? And I know that as I was a single mom raising my kids, I would literally change my health insurance because I wanted to find a place that was open, had pediatric urgent care in the evening. So I would change my health insurance with whoever was offering the most hours, because I was a working single mom that had such a hard time making it between certain hours or to find just a convenient, accessible care for my kids. So I think the idea of having an on-site clinic, and really in all of these, I feel like it's serving our staff. And with a 2,500-ish staff, right, I want to be clear to them, and our staff are the folks that make this place work. So for me, I support these efforts because I think these are supporting the staff that have to work and be in the building and do the hard, all the work from the nitty gritty to the shining and polishing to the getting policy done, and our IT, everyone, right, can benefit from these items. So I support these items, and I'm not sure if somebody wants to, and it sounds like Elias is pushing, or not pushing, suggesting we do a window. I don't know if anyone wants to entice a motion.
Madam Chair. Yeah, I'll move for a deferral of the window so we can really look at what we can do to compromise on that. I don't think we have to make a solid decision on that today, based on staff's comments. So yeah, I will definitely move for deferral of just the window replacement agenda item.
I can second that. And Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner O'Malley.
Appreciate your willingness to compromise. I just think we're going to end up in the same situation. So I'm not going to support a deferral. I think we should just get it done. So I'm going to say no.
Commissioner Casada.
Aye.
Commissioner Piscotti.
I vote aye for a deferral. Thank you.
Vice Chair Benson. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, sir.
I said aye.
Okay, thank you. Madam Chair Barboa.
Aye.
So called.
Thank you. That item number 2 has been deferred. Does anyone want to make a motion about any of the remaining items?
I'll move for approval of all the remaining items on item 9A.
Second.
Great. Madam Chair, please call the roll.
Madam, point of clarification. Are we voting for approval of all of these or none of these?
That we're voting for the approval of all of these minus number 2, the window and storefront. So this is approval for the additional security technology, build out of the 7th floor shell, expand the on-site health clinic, those items, but not the window and storefront.
Okay. I guess I was under the understanding that these were broken out with specific dollar items so that we could vote on each individual one.
We can do that as well. I think Commissioner Quesada, if you want to ask for that, then we can do that for each item.
If it's your will to vote for all of them, that'll make it easy, but I think this is much more nuanced. So I can proceed with the vote as it was called. I'm just making a point of clarification.
Commissioner Benson, and I understand that. I think that, from my understanding of our debate was mostly about the windows for the most part. There was some pushback to the health clinic, but I don't think as many. So I thought it would just, in a matter of time, just vote for the rest of them and support them or not support them. But if it's your will, then definitely we could do item at a time. I don't have a problem with that.
If you wouldn't mind, Commissioner, I would like that.
Sure, that's my pleasure. So, Madam Chair, I would like to move for approval from of item 9A1.
Second.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me. Which one is 9A1, please?
A1 is thank you, Commissioner Piscotti. Item A1 is authorize the county manager to approve and execute additional security technology as part of Alvarado Square renovation. Order number 9 in the amount of $36,839. Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? Thank you. County Clerk, please, Madam Clerk, please call the roll for item number.
Commissioner O'Malley.
Yes.
Commissioner Casada,
Aye.
Commissioner Piscotti,
Aye.
Vice Chair Benson,
Aye.
Madam Chair Barboa.
Aye.
So called.
Great. Moving on to item 9A3. Would someone like to place a motion
I
to,
move for approval, Madam Chair.
Second.
thank you.
Which item is this, please?
This is item A3, which would be build out of the 7th floor east cell space in the amount of $1,127,734.
Thank you.
You have a motion to pass. Any other questions or discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner O'Malley,
Yes.
Commissioner Casada,
Aye.
Commissioner Piscotti,
No.
Vice Chair Benson,
No.
Madam Chair Barboa.
Yes. The item gets a due pass with 3 in favor, 2 in opposition. Item 9A4, the expand on-site healthcare clinic.
Madam Chair, I move for approval.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner O'Malley,
Yes.
Commissioner Casada,
Aye.
Commissioner Piscotti,
No.
Vice Chair Benson,
Aye.
Madam Chair Barboa.
Aye. That item gets a due pass. And we have item number 5, which we didn't discuss and I meant to appreciate, was the authorize the county manager to approve minor cost increases, 5% or 5,000, whichever is greater, and associated budget and schedule changes to the items approved to be included in change order 9. Yes, Commissioner Benson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just want to thank County Manager Baca for modifying that from 10% down to 5%. Just to everyone's points, Commissioner Quezada, with your windows going up to $1,500, if you've got a $2.4 million project plus tax and it goes up 10%, that's a big, could be a potentially big jump. So yeah, thank you, Madam County Manager. That's all. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Benson. Julia, do we have to vote on number 5? Yes. Oh, okay, I'll pass it. I'll motion a due pass for item number 5.
Second.
Thank you. For discussion.
I'm sorry, I have a question. Now I'm finding it. Authorize the county manager to approve minor cost increases 5% or $5,000, whichever is greater. 5% of millions of dollars is a lot of money. So can we strike that and just make it $5,000?
Are you asking to amend that?
Yes.
Julianne, is
Madam Chair, the commissioner can make a floor amendment. If it's supported, it'll move forward. If not, it'll go as is. But 5 through 8 will need votes.
Okay. So I guess I'd like to move to amend that item to strike 5% or 5,000, just to whichever is greater, just to have it stand at 5,000.
Do I have a second? Okay, I did not see a second for that motion. There's a motion on the floor to approve item number 5, the authorize county manager to approve minor cost increases 5% or 5,000, whichever is greater, and associated budget and schedule changes to the items approved to be included in change order number 9. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner O'Malley,
Yes.
Commissioner Casada,
Aye.
Commissioner Piscotti,
No.
Vice Chair Benson,
Aye.
Madam Chair Barboa.
Aye. Great.
So called.
Thank you. Now, in response to that, we pass those items. Now is when we approve the dollar amounts that go with those items. So we have item number 6, approve financial resolution FR 2022-18 to appropriate $651,501.09 from general fund to support the construction of the build out of the 7th floor east shell space.
Madam Chair, I move for approval.
Thank you. I'll second that. Any discussion or question? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner O'Malley,
Yes.
Commissioner Casada,
Aye.
Commissioner Piscotti,
No.
Vice Chair Benson,
No.
Madam Chair Barboa.
Yes.
So called.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have item number 7, approve financial resolution FR 2022-19 to appropriate $305,000+ from general fund to support the construction of the 7th floor expansion of the on-site health clinic.
Madam Chair, I move for approval.
Thank you, Commissioner Quesada. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any question or discussion? Great, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner O'Malley,
Yes.
Commissioner Casada,
Aye.
Commissioner Piscotti,
No.
Vice Chair Benson,
Aye.
Madam Chair Barboa.
Aye.
So called.
Thank you, County Clerk. And we have item number 9.8, approve financial resolution FR 2022-20 to appropriate $130 from the health insurance fund to support the construction of the 7th floor expansion of the on-site health clinic.
It's 130,000, isn't it?
130,000, Madam Chair, but I do move for approval. If it's $130, I don't even think that'd be a debate. I move for approval, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Sorry about that. And yes, any questions or discussion? County Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner O'Malley,
Yes.
Commissioner Casada,
Aye.
Commissioner Piscotti,
No.
Vice Chair Benson,
Aye.
Madam Chair Barboa.
Aye for 130,000. I'll give you $130. Just kidding. Okay, great. Thank you. Those have approved. And so now approvals. We want to thank you. Under Sheriff Corin is here to present to us about the automated external defibrillators. Thank you for your patience with us this evening, and I'm excited to hear from you. Under Sheriff Corin?
Yes. Yeah, I was a little confused as far as who was going to be presenting today, but nonetheless, here I am. The automatic defibrillator request is an initiative that we wanted to take because oftentimes, in fact, usually about 90% of the time at least, our deputies are first to respond to a lot of emergencies. And so we wanted to enable them to essentially save lives when they show up to some of these calls, because they are driving over to these incidents oftentimes with emergency equipment on, and of course their vehicles are a lot more agile than some of the fire department vehicles, so they're able to respond a little bit more rapidly sometimes. And so this is just an effort to try to equip them with some life-saving equipment. We just recently, just the other day, recognized our deputies for saving lives using tourniquets and chest seals during shootings, and they're often saving lives applying Narcan. And so this is just one more tool on their belt that could kind of bolster emergency response services for everyone. That's all I had to say.
Thank you, Under Sheriff Corin. Is there any discussion?
Oh, I was going to move for approval.
Thank you, Commissioner Piscotti. Yes, we have Chief Greg Pettis.
So, Madam Commissioner and Commissioners, Madam Chair, Commissioners. So this is a huge win for Bernalillo County as a whole. I think Larry Corn, I want to thank him for allowing this to be something that his deputies undertake. We will be one of the few departments in the country that actually has deputies equipped with this life-saving machine. So I think it's something we need to be very, very proud of. And I think we need to really, the Sheriff's Department in particular needs to toot its horn on this one, because it is something, the service that they are providing above and beyond law enforcement protection. They're now truly going in and saving people's lives. And that is a huge, huge deal. And I want to give credit again to all of the men and women in the Sheriff's Department for taking on this initiative and really going outside of probably what most of them signed up to do. They didn't sign up to attach pads onto somebody who's not breathing, and they're willing to jump in and do that. I think that is super courageous. And again, I give huge credit to our brothers and sisters in the Sheriff's Department for taking on this initiative, and look forward to the ongoing partnership that both of our agencies share every day. Thank you.
Thank you for that detail, Chief Pettis. Appreciate hearing in more detail what this means. Can I get a motion? Does anyone want to entertain a motion?
I motion to approve.
Sorry, you already did, Commissioner Piscotti. I'm failing today. I will second that. And this can, any discussion or questions? Thank you, Madam Clerk. Please call the roll.
Commissioner O'Malley,
Yes.
Commissioner Casada,
Aye.
Commissioner Piscotti,
Aye.
Vice Chair Benson,
Aye.
Madam Chair Barboa.
Aye.
So
Thank-
called.
My thing keeps coming on. Okay, and now we have item Parks and Rec and Open Space. This piece I have brought, and I believe Mari Simbana is here to present. There might be a couple of participants as well, but thank you, Mari. Please take it away.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Commission, Mari Simbana, Bernalillo County Open Space Supervisor. Thank you for allowing me to present. Very short. We respectfully request the signature of the Board of County Commissioners on a letter that would allow the Trust for Public Land and the Wilderness Society to conduct a feasibility research. And this would be to explore our county's conservation priorities in the work that Open Space does. And that is pretty much it. We appreciate your support. I stand for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Simbani.
I move approval.
I'll second that. Any discussion or question on this open space operations funding feasibility study?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Quesada.
I just think it's a really great thing that you brought forward, and I think we need to say that. One of our priorities in Bernalillo County is really preserving open space and saving it for the future. But if we don't have a study in place and see how we maintain it, how we maintenance that, and how we actually use that for the benefit, then it's sort of counterproductive. So I'd like to thank you for your work on this. Super important. I know you don't got a whole lot of open space in your district, but thank you for looking down at the South Valley, and I'm sure Commissioner Piscotti and Commissioner O'Malley and Benson have plenty of open space that can sure use some help. So with that being said, I just wanted to thank you for the work.
Thank you so much. And I did want to recognize the Trust for Public Lands and the Wilderness Society who approached me with this idea. And I think it's both important, right, that our communities deserve green open space, but also if we haven't noticed yet, right, we're in the middle of some of our craziest weather and change, and the more we can preserve those open spaces and have them maintained. We can't just name a space open. We know that then that's most of where we live in, right? We need to actually maintain these so they're accessible, so that our families and communities can benefit from them. But part of when I was talking about this was the county before my time did the brave step of moving away from those fertilizers that are harmful to the environment, to the bees. And that I'm proud of the county doing that even before I got on here. And I think, but what I've heard from the folks doing that work is, yeah, it means expense, right? So we want to do the good work. We want to save the bees. We want to help the environment. But those things come at a cost for us to be able to maintain and use ways that are not toxic to our environment. Are also ways that this funding could be used. And so just also thank you for that recognition. And I'm hopeful to have everyone's support on this. Any room for discussion? We have a motion on the table. Thank you. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner O'Malley.
It was seconded, right?
By you.
Oh,
By
by me. By me. Yeah, I think I moved it, so somebody must have seconded. Okay, just want to make sure. All right, yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Casada,
Aye.
Commissioner Piscotti,
Aye.
Vice Chair Benson,
Aye.
Madam Chair Barboa.
Aye.
So called.
Thank you. Great. So that passes unanimously. Thanks again for folks watching and participating. Announcement of the next commission meeting is Tuesday, March 15th, 2020 will be the zoning meeting at 3 p.m. And the Tuesday, March 15th following will be the 2022 and March 15th administrative meeting at 5 p.m. If there's no other business, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Have a good evening.